What's going on, guys? Mr. Jones again. All right, the first thing I want to do before we go over the ready, set, go is talk about the questions from last week. So, question number 8, I should put it on the screen, right? It said, looking back at the trinomials you wrote, how can you tell if the middle term is going to be positive or negative? So, that was all these ones. So you'll see all those right here. So this is question, I want to say 3 through 7 right here. And some of the times you see a negative x and sometimes you see a positive x. And so hopefully you realize that the way to figure out if it's going to be positive or negative is whatever you have more of whenever you look at your binomials. So if you look at the two numbers in parentheses, is the bigger number positive or negative? So I have a positive 2 and a negative 1. Obviously, this one has more. So that one should have been positive. And that's funny because I don't know why I put negative here. But this one should have been positive. And that's how we catch our mistakes sometimes. So positive x. Okay. This next one, same thing. I have more positives than negatives. Therefore, I have a positive b. More negatives than positives. I have a negative b. And so forth, negative b, more positives, positive b. All right, so that's how you know if your b is going to be positive or negative, is because you're going to add those two together. And so that's what you get. A positive 4 and a negative 3 combined together gives you one positive, a positive 1. All right, so that was question number 8. Question number 11 wanted you to look at the pattern for these two. So if you have the same number, what happens? You'll notice that your b value disappears and your c value is always negative. Okay, so a negative times a positive is always a negative. So that's what happened for number 11. Your b value disappeared. All right, then you go down to number 13 and it says, how can you tell if the last number is going to be positive or negative? Well, look on the blue screen. All of these C values right here in red are red. They're all negative because I have one positive and one negative value in my binomials. Okay, so if your two factors, these are called your two factors, right? If your factors are, you have one positive and one negative, then your C value, okay, these are your factors. I guess I should just put them, instead of putting them here, I should put them here. So if your factors are one positive, one negative, then your C value is going to be negative. If you have two positive factors, your C value is going to be positive. And if you have two, let's actually move this, two negative factors, then your C value is going to be positive. Because a negative times a negative is a positive times a positive is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So this is actually pretty good. Okay, that's basically the answer for number 13. All right, so now that we got all those squared away, hopefully now if you had trouble with these number 14, you can go back and say, okay, my C value here is positive, so I know I'm going to have two of the same sign, for example. Or my C value is negative, so I know that I'm going to have one positive and one negative factor. Okay, so you can kind of use this little chart to your advantage whenever you factor. All right, let's go ahead and do what we came to do, which was Ready, Set, Go 2.7. If you'll notice on numbers 1 through 8, it says find 3 numbers that are between the two given points. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 1 for you. Okay, so 5 3/4, if I put that on a number line, and then way over here, I'm going to put 6 1/3. All right, I have good news and bad news. The good news is there's an infinite number of answers. So there's literally an infinite number of answers you can pick that will fit between these two numbers. The bad news is you got to use fractions and decimals, right? So you're basically saying, what's a number bigger than 5 3/4 but smaller than 6 1/3? Well, an easy one would be 6. Okay, so that's 1. So now you got to find a number that fits between 5 and 3/4 and 6. So maybe you would say 5 and, I don't know, 7/8. Okay, 7/8 is bigger than 3/4. And over here, maybe you would say 6 and 1/6. I don't know. There's literally a million different answers. Some students like to just say, okay, let's just try the same one again, right? So here's 5 and 3/4. Here's 6 and 1/3. Okay, they don't want to deal with fractions, so you could just go to decimals. Okay, this is the same thing as 5.75, and this is the same as 6.33. So now it's probably easier, because if you know 6 is in there, what about 6.1? What about 6.2? What about 6.01? Or 6.001? All these numbers fit in between these two values, and I've only scratched the surface. So hopefully you can figure out how to do 1 through 8, and you shouldn't have the same answers as your friends because there's an infinite number of possible answers. All right, 9 through 28, you're going to be factoring. Okay, you're going to be factoring. Let's do one that looks hard, just so I can, let's see. I bet you the hardest looking one is let's do number 28. I don't even know the answers, so we're going to hope for the best right now. Number 28. It says put it in factored form, basically. One thing I do know is that my C value is negative, okay? And my B value is positive. So this means I'm going to have my positive number will be bigger than my negative number. And this means I'm going to have one positive and one negative number. So my factors, I'm trying to get negative 45. And I'm going to try and sum to 12, right? So these are my factors. Okay, I'm just going to start off with 1. Remember, I have to have a bigger positive number than negative numbers. So I'm going to say negative 1 and positive 45. That does multiply to give me negative 45. And it adds to get 44. All right, so 2 doesn't go with 45, but 3 does. So negative 3 and positive 15. Remember, I know my positive number has to be bigger than my negative number because my B value was positive. We learned about that earlier in this video. So I don't have to fiddle with negative 3, positive 15, negative 15, positive 3. They're both going to multiply to the same thing, but we already know which one has to be right. All right, this one, 15 and negative 3 does sum to get 12. Ding, 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 ding. So I found out my answers, and I'm going to write it like this. And it doesn't matter if you put the 15 first or the negative 3 first. This was the correct answer. So that's how you do number 9 through 28. All right, last but not least, just a little bit of graphing. For graphing, graph each parabola, include the vertex and at least 3 accurate points on each side of the axis of symmetry. Okay, none of them have stretches, so just a little word of advice. They're all going to do what the normal parent function table does, which is wherever the vertex is, go over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9. And this is going to be 1 point, and then 2 more points, 2 more points, 2 more points. So if you did this, you literally have 7 points, and it's only asking, actually that's exactly what it's asking for. So each one, once you find the vertex, you should be able to go over 1, up 1, over 2, up 4, over 3, up 9, or down, depending on if it's down. One of those is down. I bet you can figure out which one goes down, right? All right, we're going to try and make this video less than 10 minutes. I think we made it. You guys have a great day.